to the audience to join us at this panel, and special thanks, of course, to our panelists who are ready to discuss with us the very hot topics of critical raw materials. So I would really like to thank to the representatives of the ministry. From the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, we have Mr. Zlobec. From the Ministry of Natural Resources and Spatial Planning, we have Dr. Maver. Then we have the representatives of the research community. From Geological Survey of Slovenia, Ms. Snježana Miletić. From Slovenian National Building and Civil Engineering Institute, Dr. Dragica Marinič. From Jozef Stefan Institute, Dr. Gašper, Tavčar. And from the industry side, from Surovina, Mrs. Vilijana Brumec, I call it. So, very welcome. Just to set the scene for today's discussion, that will be focused on the critical raw materials. We have heard right now from Marko on digital and green transition, and the key to these transitions are critical raw materials, because they are fundamental components of green technologies, because they are used in digital applications and are indispensable for defense, for aerospace, for healthcare industries as well. So the aim of their use and combination with the risk of their supply and global availability makes these critical materials really critical. The demand for those materials is forecasted to increase severely in the coming decades, and they may be derived from secondary sources by reuse and recycle, but the increased demand can only be covered by primary resources. So both sources of achieving these critical raw materials are really of high importance. The EIT RIS Hub Adria organizes the yearly event Adria Innovation Day to gather the network and discuss the hot topics with stakeholders. And this year, the Hub joined forces and joined as co-organizer to TBMCE conference. The main topic of last year's Hub edition was the implementation of the European Critical Raw Materials Act that was in preparation last year, highlighting the key objectives of the regulation, the implementation modalities in different countries, and the challenges they face in adopting the action plans and measures to achieve the objectives of the regulation. We concluded that the pathway to achieving the objectives of the Critical Raw Materials Act is mostly through the implementation of innovation in the raw material sector around the entire stakeholder chain. And the Act was adopted in 2024. So this year, actually, the European Union adopted two very important acts. We have already heard about both today. One is the Critical Raw Material Act that was adopted to strengthen all stages of the European critical raw materials value chain and to diversify the European Union's imports to reduce strategic dependencies, improve EU capacity to monitor and mitigate risks of disruptions to the supply of critical raw materials, and improve circularity and sustainability. And the other important act was also mentioned previously, it's the Net Zero Industry Act. That was adopted to enhance European manufacturing capacity for net zero technologies and their key components, addressing barriers to scaling up production in Europe. And there was another act which was not yet discussed here, but we need to consider it when implementing all the other relevant legislation in Europe, that is the regulation on natural restoration. So the Critical Raw Material Act sets some benchmarks, some important benchmarks along the strategic raw materials value chain and for the diversification of the EU supplies. So these benchmarks are Extraction capacity, EU extraction capacity to be covered at least 10% of the EU's secondary raw material consumption. EU processing capacity over at least 40%. And EU recycling capacity over at least 25%. So these are the benchmarks that are set really high and will not be easy to achieve. So discussion will go is going to be focused on where we are in Slovenia in the field of critical raw materials. And for the first round, I would like to ask our panelists to say a few words about their institution and their work, especially with the focus on the critical raw materials and the circular economy transition. And I would like to maybe go in a way from, let's say, research towards industry. So I would like to start with the Ministry of Higher Education and Science and Innovation. For Doroteja, please.
So then, same thing. I'm Doroteja Zlobec. I'm a policy officer and project officer in the science division. So the Ministry for Higher Education, Science and Innovation now. We have several departments, and in the science division we are very involved in European policy on different areas, but I cover somehow advanced materials and raw materials actions. We are involved in ARAMIN project. This is an ARANET project that combines funding organization across Europe, and we jointly launch calls for research and innovation actions. And also we are involved in MARANET. This is the sisterhood ARANET that covers advanced materials. We are focusing on, let's say, lower and middle TRLs, because we are the science responsible for science. We go to TRL 6, for example, but the Department for Innovation is also responsible for lower TRLs to cover this.
Okay, thank you, Doroteja. Now the other representatives of the Ministry for Natural Resources and Spatial Planning, Dr. Maver, please.
Thank you. My role at the Ministry of Natural Resources is Secretary in the Department of Nature Protection. So after the restructuring of the ministries, our ministry in previous year, we received the Directorate for Mining from the former Ministry of Infrastructure. One of our, let's say, tasks as it relates to the CRMA is the implementation, together with other ministries, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Economic Development, and so forth. My role in this aspect is try to coordinate the response, or to try to coordinate the response from our end, and also maybe to work with other stakeholders to really push the importance of meeting the requirements in due time. So we are not penalized by the European Union in any way. One of examples, for example, we've had some consultation meetings over the past year. We're now in the preparation of preparing the funding for the 2025 and 26. We've already allocated some funds, put them on the side specifically for the implementation of the National Research Program. We're holding meetings next week on that subject. But in our efforts, we also work quite in depth with the geological survey. They're a big part of what we do, not only on critical minerals, but on mining in general. In brief.
Thank you very much. So now we continue. You said you work a lot, yes, with us with the geological survey of Slovenia, because the critical raw materials, let's say, it starts with the research where these critical raw materials can be. So this is done usually by geological survey organization. Snježana, please, you can just say a few words about what geological survey of Slovenia does and what you do.
Am I using presentation?
Yeah.
Sure.
Good afternoon. From myself as well, I'm Snježana Miletić. I come from Geological Study of Slovenia. I work closely with water mineral resources and geochemistry. Don't say just a few words of an institution and our main activities. So we are, as you know, Geological Study of Slovenia is a public research institution. It has a wide range of activities with a scientific and professional focus on geosciences. You could see you are silent. Thank you.
If you speak Joseph to the microphone is better, can you try?
Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
A national custodian of geological information with a central role in national geological research. And the long tradition, we have a long tradition of data acquisition, information production, and dissemination. We conduct the basic and applied research and provide access to objective and accurate data and research results. We follow the principles of open science by fulfilling our mission and tasks. We respond to the needs of society and remain the central geological institution in Slovenia. We are involved in global research trends and pursue our goals within the Geochemistry Service, or EGS. That's a network of European geological services. This is our building in Vilijana stated in the panel. Our main activities are mineral resources, groundwater and hydrogeology, environmental geochemistry. We have a lot of laboratory equipment for sedimentological, paleontological, geochemistry and other analysis. We have geological information center. We deal with geohazards, with geothermal energy, regional geology, and a lot of other things. Well, I will shortly just present our work in mineral resources. We work, we explore and evaluate mineral deposits. These are mainly dimensions, stone, gravel, and sand and clays, which we have the most and energy raw materials, coal and hydrocarbons. We also explore and evaluate mining waste as a secondary source of critical and other mineral raw materials. We have established a public mining service. This is in support to the ministry responsible for mining. We support them in mineral policy, in sustainable mineral resource management, and spatial planning at national level. We prepare project documentations as reports on reserves, mining research projects, and etc. We develop and maintain databases of mineral resources and maps. We are at the end intensively involved in numerous European projects on primary and secondary mineral resources. Also put some of our most important projects for secondary resources are our reserve, which deal with West Balkan and collected information about reserves of this so-called critical raw materials in West Balkan. There is also risk recoveries, that is GeoZS summary. So we have this good cooperation with the institution with this relevant institution on West Balkan. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Snježana. We now proceed from the, let's say, primary raw materials more towards secondary raw materials. So I'm inviting Dragica Marinič from the Slovenian
National
Engineering. Thank you very much.
Work together. It's okay.
Can do this others.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you, and thank you to invite us as a ZAP to be a part of this panel. I want to present first very briefly about our institute and then also our work of our laboratory where I'm working. That is the laboratory for stone, aggregates, and recycled materials. So who we are and what we are doing. We are the research institute with different departments and also under the department different laboratories. And if you see, we have Department of the Materials where we are also belonging to this department, and then Department of the Structure, of the Geotechnics and Infrastructure, Buildings Physics, Fire Safe, and Built Environment. And at the same time, we have 3 different locations. The main location is in Ljubljana, where is the management and also mostly of the laboratories and also most employees. And 2 different locations also. One is in Ljubljana and the second one is in Maribor. It's a small one where I'm working close to Maribor in Miklauš. This is a big city close to Maribor. And the third location is in Logatec. It's a new institute, a fire institute. It's a huge one in the, I can say also in the east and northeast part or southeast part of Europe. And what is our vision? Vision is the knowledge that leaves a trail. I hope that we can manage all together also in the future with different projects, research and development, or in innovation part in the collaboration with industries, which is also a very important part of or actors in our work. And as you see, we are working on different research and in different laboratories and also in different buildings. The activities which are running is about 253 employees. I hope it's still, or maybe 1 or 2 more. And from this number, we are altogether 71 doctors with the science. Very briefly about work of our laboratory and our part, which are under the critical raw materials, that means e-waste. As you see, Meta, you already mentioned about the critical raw materials, and put just which different regulations are in the circular with the critical raw materials. And what is important is also Green Deal industrial plan for the zero net age, which was last year also established. What is important to be more sustainable, and also what we are looking for, how we can manage with the e-waste in different directions with different new technologies, and make the extraction of the critical raw materials. Just a few words about this e-waste is the most fastest growing waste stream globally, and is unfortunately between 3 and 5% already. It's a huge number here. And in Europe, you see also e-waste, how much we produce the electrical and electronic equipment. It's annually about 13.5 million tons, and then generated about approximately 5 million tons e-waste. And what is important, this is the less than 40% recycled. And that means that is average in the year about 11 kilo per person collected. I put also some number of the OECD and what was also in the global e-waste monitor. So we reached in year 22 already the 62 million metric ton e-waste. And then if we compare the 2010 and to now it's about more than 80% decrease of since 2010. And what is very sad news, that is only about a little bit more than 20% documented, collected, and recycled environmentally, unfortunately. So what is at the moment our work with our small team at our laboratory is the project we made under the 80 materials, and we targeted on different e-waste, PCBs, e-motors, and mobile phones. And you see what we are doing, working and testing on the novel technologies. One of these technologies belonging also to our work. Here you see the activities in the process, as the model process. First there was the collection of the e-waste, and then the second one was separation, and the third one was different treatment, and one of these was also dry leaching. We are doing the research with 2 different microorganisms, and then on the end, of course, we would like to extract with different CRMs. On the other side, one of the project partners, their work on the metallurgical and biometallurgical as well. And what was the innovation? I have to say that the research is still going on, and we recovered different critical raw materials, as you see, chrome, cobalt, nickel, copper, zinc, and palladium. And what is important, our part of the bioleaching is the environmentally very friendly. We use very low temperature and also not so much other CO2. At the same time, with the process with the microorganisms, we use also, they use also CO2. So that's all. Thank you very much for now. On the end, I want to welcome to our seminar at 20th of September, where we present our novel activities on the technologies. So welcome. You can see also the link, and on the end, we can discuss about it.
Thank you very much, Dragica. And now we are from our recycling, we go more towards the processing. So I'm inviting Gašper and Tavčar from your institute. Hi.
Ja, mutta Villi takaa tilasta.
Ja, das war die Utskapis.
Nyt se hyvä joo.
Gašper, please, your view on and work.
I'm Gašper Tavčar, coming from Geochemistry Institute. I'm head of Department of Inorganic Chemistry and Technology. In general, Geochemistry Institute is one of the leading scientific research institutes or institutions in Slovenia. It's, from what I know, the largest one with around 1,200 employees currently. So the number is fluctuating from time to time, of course, depends on funding. The institute is dedicated to the pursuit of scientific knowledge from different disciplines, including physics, chemistry, information sciences, environmental sciences, and material sciences. And of course, the institute's work contributes significantly to scientific advancements and developments of technologies that address different global challenges. But as the institute is kind of too large for me to, let's say, address more or less all the activities, I'll just focus into the department that I lead. So in this case, I just want to show you the let's say, larger development or extraction project that we were involved in during the, let's say, recent and not so recent years. For instance, if you go to the past, the institute itself was established due to the critical, let's say, raw materials at that time. It was basically based for the nuclear technology at that time, so uranium was the thing that we more or less all started with. So the first image represents yellow cake. So you see uranium itself comes from the lanthanides and actinides, so something that's connected to the currently really fashionable rare earths, so rare earth elements. And then we proceeded through different activities, mostly smaller ones with the, let's say, focused on vanadium and desulfurization technologies. But most recently, as you can see, we already delved quite deep into the critical raw materials despite Europe not even knowing what it is in 2015. So at that point, we were contacted by a foreign company kind of asking us if we're able to develop technology for the tantalum extraction from the primary resources, because it was quite connected to our classical basic research, so fluorine chemistry. And of course, we did first the basic development for the extraction from the minerals coming from the Africa for this Macedonian company. Then, of course, in the recent years, we proceeded with secondary raw materials. So we tried to extract, for instance, here the zinc and lead from the secondary lead slag, that's the second image. While we were doing that, of course, we proceeded other researches, but I'm just trying to show you the, let's say, the largest projects or industrially connected project that we are working on, not everything, because that would be too much. And then in the, let's say, recent past, we again were contacted by foreign companies that want to set up the whole plant, and now we are finalizing the development of the whole pilot plant for the tantalum niobium extraction that will be based in India right now and part in UK, with the, let's say, monthly capacity of around 60 tons per month. But of course, due to the other requests, we also bought again to the secondary raw materials. So in this case, we went for EAF dust, which is a, let's say, quite problematic waste for metallurgical industry. And well, there's plenty of it all around, and mostly it just being extracted for the zinc, and the rest is just being thrown away as a toxic waste. So we are trying to, let's say, to remove everything that's usable out of it, and the rest, in collaboration with Zach, used as a building material. And of course, for the future, or what's going on right now, we are trying to establish a laboratory for critical material technologies. And in this case, we are looking for the funding to establish pilot plant, let's say, laboratory in order to address the whole value chain from the extraction from primary sources, so rare earths, especially rubidium, dysprosium, and samarium, then purification, production of the metals, and afterwards production of the magnets in the pilot scale. So we're talking about few kilo scales. That could be further on sent to the industry or used by the industry in order to optimize their processing. So this is a kind of short overview of our, let's say, present and past activities in this field.
Thank you very much. And now I'm inviting our representative from the industry part, Ms. Vilijana Brumec, please, from Surovina.
I'm Vilijana Brumec, from Surovina, company willing to
Aha, tak super. Ja, slyšíte? I started 17 years ago in Slovenia, and we came off top of metal recycling companies in Europe, and we recycling metal scrap, non-ferrous metal scrap, bucket and alloys, and hazard industrial and other waste that prepare the SRF and cement industry and thermo electricity and packing waste treatment and waste electronic equipment treatment. But this is interesting. We interesting to find and treatment because we in project with students with Institute Jozef Stefan and so on and Bolivia and collector and so industry we prepare to permanent magnets in end of life of home applications, and then the extraction and we dismantle and extraction some permanent magnets, NDF and ferro magnets, and so the Institute Jozef Stefan is prepared to new materials for new permanent magnets and the new motors in Dubai. That's a project, and other projects we working polycorrosion substrate in the with Bosnia-Herzegovina and so on projects. By colleague test recycling plastic and with extraction zlato, sugar, gold, and so on. Projects we working our teams in Surovina. The potential for permanent magnets contained dismantling waste electronic electricity equipment and end of life in hand tools in home applications, vacuum cleaners, blended motors from higher price range equipment, electronic equipment, LCD and LED and other electric motors. We prepare the experience project dismantling the motors of in hard disk permanent magnets with neodymium magnets. This is in the one hope and speakers with mixed composition and the magnets from one scooter, and then the analytical prepare to Institute Jozef Stefan, and so prepare the table and analysis of because the different clothing, zinc or nickel or other mounting permanent magnets. A scooter, permanent magnets is a scooter is very interesting for us and other needs. That the mounting, dismantling and extraction of permanent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this presentation of your work. We already saw there's quite a lot of, let's say, cooperation, coordination between the industry and the research institutes. What I would like to ask maybe Ministry for Higher Education, Science and Innovation is, are there any specific instruments that support the research and innovation in the field of critical raw materials or circular economy in a specific field, or are you planning to prepare something, especially maybe in the light that innovation has just joined to your industry?
Actually, we already participate in several European projects, as I mentioned, Aeronets. As you may know, in Slovenia we have just bottom-up approach for selecting the topics for research. So we don't have special programs for special areas, but those networks, those European networks, give us opportunity to focus more on one field. So with Aramin, we joined this. We joined Aramin in 2016 and participated in all 5 calls and found 11 projects with Slovenian partners, which doesn't seem a lot, but together it was 71 funding projects. So the Commission find this Critical Raw Materials Act and raw materials very attractive last few years and proposed a larger scope of funding with European co-fund partnership. This partnership is now under preparation, and just in a few days we need to announce if we will participate or not. So, by the way, we have a good news. Our ministry would like to continue that way. That means that in 7 years annually participate in new this partnership calls and fund around 1.5 million per call. So this is our opportunity to focus budget a little bit more. Of course, Slovenian Research and Innovation Agency with this bottom-up approach also funds the project in this field, but not very focused. There was some experience with structural funds, so Department for R&D structural funds, that they were focused on some project related to European policy, like, for example, Green Deal focus or something like that. And with this preparation of the new exploration plans that were foreseen in Critical Raw Materials Act by next May, we will also try to focus a little bit on research part that we will have later in our national calls, maybe some base why do we choose or prefer topics that are so relevant.
Thank you very much. The Ministry for Natural Resources and Spatial Planning organized in March a conference on Critical Raw Materials Act. What's the follow-up within your ministry?
I mean, 6 months' time in public sector sometimes feels like an eternity, but sometimes it goes by so quickly. But we organized the workshop at the time with the idea that CRMA was just being passed. Obviously, it was going to have a lot of requirements, not only for our ministry, so we wanted to bring all the stakeholders around the same table. We had the public consultations. I might have had maybe 1 or 2 meetings after that, just between the ministries. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have a meeting next week on Monday to discuss how to proceed with the National Exploration Program. What we've done since that consultation in preparation for our budget plans for 25 and 2026, we've already allocated additional funding for the geological survey. I think overall, it was an increase of about 19%, with the expectation that some of the requirements from the CRMA will be led by the geological survey. How that's going to be distributed between other stakeholders remains to be seen, but the plan for now is to start with let's say a feasibility study or a smaller project on how to structure the National Exploration Program. We'll discuss that next week, and then from that onward see what kind of funding requirements and who's going to be responsible for which part of the exploration program itself. And then as far as it relates to many different requirements of the CRMA, that remains to be seen, but so there was some progress, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. So, Snježana, are there any potentials for critical raw materials as far as we know about
In Slovenia.
in Slovenia, of course?
Yeah, as far as we know, we have information on occurrences and deposits, several occurrences on critical raw materials from today's list. But there is no open mine these raw materials. So we have information, but these data are actually old. These are from 1980s, and there are actually no earlier exploration, at least bigger exploration of such raw materials. Also these explorations went more on its surface and up to, I don't know, about 50 meters in deep, and we don't have actually a lot of information what's underneath deeper. So that actually has to be explored as well in the future. So yeah, particularly these deposits are bauxite. We have information about 39 locations. Then that's buried mineral, which is accessory in most Slovenian mines. There is antimony. We have information on 8 locations. Also, I have to mention here dolomite, which we have a lot in Slovenia, and dolomite deposits are potential for extraction of magnesium. So these are actually 4 main materials that we have information today, but more research we will have to make, exploration.
Definitely, thank you. Maybe just a few words on how do you see the National Exploration Program, but the government will decide how it should be prepared, but how Geological Survey sees what would be, let's say, the most needed to be done within this program.
So yes, as I said, a couple of times these exploration programs have to be prepared by each member state by May next year. So also Slovenia is preparing one. I see here 2 things important. First is, of course, to highlight the necessity of exploration in both dimensions, like all territory Slovenian and deep explorations. And the other thing is, it's very important to involve in this preparation of programming, implementation of CRMA at the end, all relevant stakeholders. So these are actually 2 things that I see important in this exploration program.
Thank you very much. Dragica, Zach has a lot of experience in the reuse of different building materials. You already showed some things that you do on critical raw materials. And you also mentioned that you cooperate a lot with the industry. How strong is your cooperation to the industry? in Slovenia and cross borders, and do you see opportunities for improvement or strengthening, or do you see this opportunity also through these acts that have been now implemented?
ZAP had already made many different research projects, the critical raw materials. Maybe I can mention, for example, the Restore, where we evaluation from the Ritmut tailings in the East and Southeast Europe region. And for this, we extract the heavy minerals, which contain very valuable metals. And this red mud then was as a secondary raw materials. Also, you can use also the composite for the 3D printing, for example. The second one, as a project, I can mention also 2 is DR. This is upscaling project, and was this 2-step. That means the dust recycling process also, and here the resulting was the slag, and where we can use as construction material. This is only 2 examples, so more examples. But what is more important, the ZAP as a research institute was one of the member of different value chains under the AET raw materials. Mostly this project where our project we made, it's still under the AET raw materials, and partners were from different parts, from the industry, research, academia, and also the companies. So what we would like to establish also in the future, different value chains to put our knowledge in the laboratory scale, and on the end, with the different projects, we would like to make also the upscaling. And for example, on the VNet project, now we are running with the discussion how we can manage the next step in the project and prepare upscaling project. What is important here that you have, if you want to test the new technology, novel technology, you have to put first on the laboratory scale and then go step by step further. It's not so easy because the laboratory state, you have the conditions, and these conditions are sometimes not the same also in the upscaling part. For this upscaling part, you need it also the companies, and thanks God for now we have a very good relationship with the different companies from different countries in the East region mostly, on the east and southeast part. And I hope that we will also in the future. So, but maybe what is important here, we put a lot of knowledge on this, because critical raw materials at the moment, for example, if you see different e-waste, we are working mostly at the moment on the electronic equipments, on the mobile phones or the PCBs and so on. Until now, maybe 5-10 years ago, they were very rich with the critical raw materials. And now they have to change also. On the other side, we will have more and more e-waste on the landfill or everywhere, yeah. And then it's very difficult to be very economical and environmental friendly with all solutions. Because that is also a lot of money if you put on the landfill everywhere in different locations without solutions, for example. But on the other side, we needed also the different regulation. If you put the green compound, for example, if you use the e-waste, and then also make the extraction for the different critical raw materials.
Okay. Thank you very much. Maybe a similar question also for the Jozef Stefan Institute. You already showed us that you work on critical raw materials and the focus of your work. and that you also do a lot of work with the industry. Where do you see the opportunities for improvement or strengthening this work with the industry, and where do you see the opportunity for, let's say, developing the innovation, because you are already working hard on that?
Where it might sound strange, but we didn't have a lot of luck with the slow wind industry, so we were forced to more or less go abroad in this field. But luckily, the foreign companies directly contacted us due to our experience, and we were able to collaborate quite well with them. So, in comparison to the classical slow wind industrial approach that they give you 40 days and minimum funding for something that they were trying to solve for years, we sat down and discussed the timeline and the expenses that we will have for the development. So, for instance, let's say for tantalum and niobium production, we spent approximately 2 years of the development to get to the contractual 99.99% oxide, which is required by the further capacitor industry, because in this case, it's the whole value chain. So you get the ore, so coltan from miners, then you have to make the oxide toward the specification of the capacitor industry, and then they're doing the capacitors more or less in 2 factories around the world. So you have to follow all the requirements for the whole value chain in order to be successful and, of course, successfully sell yourself. But in any case, what I miss in Slovenia would be to the direct the direct discussions with the industry, and in this case also the support from the government for that kind of applicative project that would address serious problems that they have in the industry, not just some kind of general research, let's say, project, but something that, let's say, it's bothering our industry really heavily, and, let's say, co-found that kind of, let's say, problem to go away. In general, I think that we have plenty of knowledge about also the the critical raw materials in Slovenia, but now it's mostly, I would say, scattered, because some institutes cover, let's say, one part, so let's say extraction, the other parts waste, the third part, let's say, I don't know, let's say, production of the products from the, let's say, these extracted metals, but mostly we haven't connected to make most of the value chain itself. So I suppose we should slowly try towards that kind of collaboration in order to address the same challenge and try to sell the, let's say, the whole chain from the, let's say, the primary or secondary sources toward the end product. I mean, the end product, of course, in the development stage, not in the, let's say, industrial stage. So, in any case, I'm quite optimistic for that. The knowledge is there. The only problem is probably the funding.
Do you maybe also see an opportunity in the strategic projects under the critical raw materials that are now?
Yes, of course. That should be quite important, but it's all up to the ones that are steering that kind of project. For instance, it's not directly connected or partially connected to this. For instance, let's say this CHIP Act and this semiconductor stuff. From Slovene perspective, you can read a lot of things about how they will develop the, let's say, good semiconductors, everything, but they have not addressed, for instance, how they intend to obtain the primary resources and pure metals to do that. So, we have to think about the whole image, not just the part of it, in order to be successful.
Thank you. Maybe also this question to Surovina, how do you see the strategic projects under the critical raw materials act?
Yeah, they'll be very interested. We are interested for raw materials, extracting you prepare the material for cleaning for molding and new permanent magnet, but the sorting, painting, and getting battery and so on.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the audience for our panelists? No questions from the audience? Then I would anyway like to ask maybe Zach, where under the critical raw materials implementation Slovenia could take a leading action and be a role model? How do you see that?
That is a very hard question. As Mr. Tavčar said, we have not enough industry in Slovenia. Yes, on the end, okay. Yes, that's right. We have not enough, but I think anyway we have different industry which are working on the e-waste. We found in our project, VNet, already the whole east part of Europe, about 50 to 60 different companies. In Slovenia, 4. So it's a big number for Slovenia anyway. If we want to be very on the top with the new, with the testing of the new technology, it's not so easy because this is a lot of money for the investment. On the other side, we need also the knowledge. What the ZAC can offer is the knowledge. And knowledge and also the expertise through our previously projects and also which are going on at the moment. And on the other side, what is also very important that we present our knowledge and results and solutions on different levels, not just to the academia, but also directly in the industry, because sometimes they have not enough knowledge about it, and then very difficult to get in and to invite them to be a part of the new value. So I think ZAC has enough new knowledge on this and also very good connections in the Europe. And for this, I think at the moment, if we're thinking about the raw materials, we have many possibilities, and also from Slovenia side, of course, to be in the collaboration as a team together, because maybe one institute or academia has separately knowledge and also experiences, and we have to see all together as a Slovenia, I think so, because we are small, but on the other side of our knowledge is very known also abroad, and that is very important. What I'm missing sometimes, that we are saying, no, that we are not hacked. We are not hacked, this one and this one. But on the other side, if you're going abroad, you're a very important part of the society on this field. And for this, for example, if we see the last possibility in our project VNet, we have very good relationship in the partnership. And thanks God, Zach is the coordinator of this project. And for this, the question is only if we have enough experts on this. Yeah, because we have to have also a lot of experts and at the same time also a lot of laboratory works. And what I'm using, the possibilities to scale up in Slovenia, where we can grow up and also then sell also our knowledge. Because I think that is the most important part as a licensing or the patents or something else.
Yeah. So, Doroteja, you would like to add?
I would like to add something. Yeah, in critical raw materials act, I see 2 points that are really exported. One is, of course, exploration, but the other is recycling of batteries. and permanent magnets. And I would like to expose the knowledge and also the company that we have in Slovenia on the permanent magnets. We have a lot of experts, very strong ones in that field. We do have industry here, and also a lot of new patents for recycling and using the recycling permanence raw materials again in the process. So this is, I think, really the field that we are stronger than many of the European countries. Considering batteries as a recycling, that's not really the main field, but substitution raw materials in the new waves of batteries, that's also one of very good area that we have. We also will have some, I don't know in English, center for
demonstration center.
Demonstration center for
With the chemistry.
there. So it could be also a story around the batteries. And also substitution of critical raw materials in new advanced applications are also something that we have really good experts in Slovenia. So those three fields, I think we should be more focused with budget, with the limited budget that we have.
Thank you. Maybe any other panelists would like to add something on the possibilities in Slovenia or where we could stay in the leading role? Please go on.
I was just going to add earlier when we were talking about the National Exploration Program and how it's going to be structured and which are going to be the potential for which critical resources are going to be found out. That's something I pointed out in our consultation meetings already. As part of this program, we shouldn't just focus on the critical resources themselves, but also on potential for geothermal, potential for CO2 storage. So we shouldn't forget in this program, we shouldn't forget about those aspects because they're all kind of interconnected in this, green transition. But that's going to be important too when we structure the program itself. Also, then we're obviously going to have implications on funding requirements.
Thank you. Any other opinion on that?
Yes, there.
Yes. Pretty much. Go ahead.
I was a bit late, so sorry. No, when you were asking what Slovenia can offer in this program, actually, I think we should not focus just on this primary question where and how to extract critical raw materials, but just months ago when this act was presented in Brussels, a lot of talk was about also technology for extraction, about producers of this technology, which are now mostly concentrated in Northern Europe, and it's somehow concentrated into some countries, and this should be also diversified. So Slovenia has a lot of engineering companies that are capable of maybe developing new technologies for extraction of raw materials. And another thing was also to, so the European Union will offer more than 600 million euros in the next 3 years for these programs. And a lot of this money will be devoted to actually enhance the strategic position in third countries. So, in the Balkans region is not regarded as third world in this regard, but nevertheless, they want to improve the position of raw materials sector, European position in the Balkans region. And here, I think Slovenia should step in and try to invest more to get grasp of these resources, because Chinese are overpassing us, even Indian companies are coming. So otherwise, we will have more situations like in Serbia now. So I think this is not a coincidence that now European companies are pushed out of the region because of these kind of protesters. So this is not coincidence. We have similar things in Portugal. Well, there is also a similar case in mine, which is not going to be open because of the position campus. Say green terrorists. Sorry, that expression.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from the audience? Marko.
Maybe just to complement the debate on the new center that is being established in Kisovec in the Savska region. This is a region eligible for Just Transition Fund, and the government will steer investment of roughly 25 million euros for the chemistry industry, the institute branch for hydrogen and battery technologies, which are based on the references of chemistry institute in these two particular fields, particularly in batteries, recycled materials. The chemistry institute is one of the lead partners of the European project on batmans, on recycling use of new materials for batteries. So this is something for partners that can have on radar a new institution on board as a branch of Institute of Chemistry.
Okay, so a lot of new opportunities. Any other comments?
Yeah, I would ask.
Yeah, something.
So you mentioned earlier that you were contacted by foreign companies because of your experience. But where did you get the experience of scale up, for example? I mean,
Well, our department was deeply involved in a lot of larger, let's say, scale-ups in industry in ex-Yugoslavia. We are the ones that were designing the whole uranium mine, so the extraction and processing of the uranium ore. Further on, we did large-scale pilot plants for the desulfurization and some thermal power plants. We also did the large-scale pilot plant of the extraction of vanadium from the coal ash. So we had quite a lot of experiences, and we still have a lot of equipment that could be easily used for Tiral 6 cell projects. So we have experiences for that, but in any case, yes, of course, during the years some things have decreased, but still we are capable of doing the experiments in quite a large scale. I don't have problems with few 100 kilo experiments. So this is not something that's a problem for us, for instance. So yeah, we are working on that kind of scale because nobody else can or wants. It depends.
and what do you think is the main reason that the Slovene companies are not in dialogue so much as we would like to? But
Hard to say. I think that, perhaps I kind of have misfortune with Slovene companies, but usually if they want to save money, they start cutting on the development, not on some kind of other costs. So I would say that they are really short-term profit oriented, at least the ones that I went to discussion with. But yeah, in the recent years there are some, I would say, quite good contacts, and we intend to do some collaboration on different aspects, not really critical raw materials, but the one thing that also kind of surprised about is, I would say, the new Slovene investors that want to develop different mines and processes all around the world. For instance, we have some, let's say, investors that want to open gold mine in USA, and I just came back from Tanzania that they are already opening a gold mine there, Slovene financed. So, there are plenty of opportunities out there, but they are quite well hidden.
Thank you, Dragica.
I want to add on this. In Slovenia, we have some very good companies on the e-waste, for example, on the collection side. And then also for the recycling side, we know only one or two, and that's all. Why? Because the industry was not so high in this field. So it's very difficult at the moment. Then we have to establish or construct new companies. Maybe also at the moment, as Mr. Tavčar said, yes, mostly we are collecting, and then maybe also make also the separation, and then they send to abroad and sell it. Why? Because mostly of these we have the international value chain on this field. The question is if our government wants to have this kind of the company at home and put, for the beginning also they have to support them. We can put there the knowledge, it's not a problem, but on the other side, we are not constructor, even we are that construction side. Yeah, but I think there the ministries, which they have to work a little bit more deeper together and exchange the information and also the knowledge, because they have to be also the experts on this field. That is not enough if you know very well the regulation, but you have to know also the industry, how grow up, in which direction they grow up, and what they need.
Thank you. I think that also critical raw materials act is a legislation that brought up several ministries behind the same table, because it's really let's say the responsibility is spread among several ministries, and most probably you need to work together. But maybe Doroteja and Marko, you would say a few words on that also. You must say a few words on that also, how that is going on. Marko, you already mentioned that you are working together, but if you would like to add something to that as well. It's not that.
Nothing new that hasn't already been said. I mean, we have the smaller kind of coordination group at the moment, but once we start preparing the actual program, you'll have to include not just the ministries, but also the industries, the research institution, because we can't prepare a program like that to be effective with just from, without the blocks and then expect it to work in the field.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just like to say that specifically in these critical raw materials act, I found the cooperation really pleasant. It's not all the time like that, but here I think the Ministry for Economics, Tourism and Sports really play a role, and there is one person who sticks everything together. This is Miss Mateja Papic, and she really have all information there and really collaborate nicely with other partners, which is usually very difficult. Since one of my colleagues once said, there is no government, there are ministers.
Yeah, it's true. Thank you, and thank you for that, and thank you for mentioning Mateja, who would be here with us if she was not in Brussels.
Yeah.
And then we come to maybe the last question that I would like to hear your opinion on. And pretty much in a way you already tackled this. It's actually NIMBY and banana. Banana is the first time. But it's not in my backyard and built absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone. So these are, let's say, two very hard issues that we will need to tackle in the future. So I would really like to hear your opinion on it, or how do you see it, or how they could be, how this could be addressed, maybe from the research part, from the ministry part, and also from the industry. And if you don't mind, I would just ask you to go in a row from Gašper towards Ilya.
Not in my backyard, the policy. That's something I met for the first time when I was doing the decommissioning of our Slovene uranium product processing facilities. The thing was that everything was built everything that was done at the Žirovský man was built at the Geotechnical Institute. So at the end, because nothing was cleaned up after Yugoslavia fell apart, it kind of stuck to me that I had to clean that kind of small-scale mess. So I did the decommissioning, and we were in good contact with the Žirovský Vrch mine at that point that was closing everything, and we discussed that due to the source and everything, we should just bring that kind of waste we still have. We're talking about, let's say, around 5 tons, something like that, small amount of the waste there, because it's the most logical thing, because there's a huge pile there, and the amount that we'll bring there was less than the margin of error of all the counted radioactive waste that they already had there. So we prepared everything, packed everything, organized the expensive transport, all the problems that we had. And then suddenly the guys from the local village said no. And we had a long discussion with the local representatives, showing them all the results, everything that's inside, that this is nothing in terms of everything that's already there. But at the end, we failed. They said no. They prevented every kind of, let's say, small-scale transport at the end. This small amount of waste ended up in our local radioactive waste depository, blocking this, let's say, what's that, 2-3 square meters of space for eternity without any kind of sense. That's the usual story about this not in my backyard. The problem here is that the government and of course also the local, let's say, leaders should be proactive. They should think about the possibilities, development, and not just about few locals that want to prevent everything being done in their neighborhood, despite not understanding if that's really problematic for them or not. So, but I think that under current, I would say, population or mindset, this is practically impossible.
Thank you.
Was the question
From
about
the government, how do you see what could the ministry do? But this is the problem that we also face with the courts and the I mentioned some things today.
I mean, it's a general problem throughout different sectors. In countries, I think it's more a problem of the Western world that we try to outsource all our problems to developing world, but that's more of a kind of a broad philosophical question. I think changing the NIMBY syndrome, it's changing the mindset, and that can't be done in one government's term. In Slovenia, we've had how many governments in the last 15, 16 years? Quite a few. And usually it's the task of the incoming government to change everything the previous government has done, and when you have so many different changes to policies, people are going to, be distrustful, and essentially it's when you're building windmills or doing any kind of subsurface research, you're going to, be, especially when there's risk involved, it's the issue of trust, and if you don't have trust from the local communities, you're not going to get anything done, which just makes perfect sense. So I think the government's task is when they're proposing policies or building like spatial plans, is to include the different stakeholders in the beginning of the process, or the policies or projects, because that's how you're going to build trust. And it might take a little bit more effort at the beginning, but it's going to reduce you a lot of time when you try to implement those changes. And that's how you change the NIMBY syndrome. But you also have to think about incentives. And essentially, you can't have cake and eat it too. So you'll have to, both sides, if you want to call it the government, the public, are going to have to stand back a little bit and, leave the ego and doors. That's it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Snježana. Thank you. I would agree with both of you. Just shortly, such NIMBY and so Odgledanom are actually thinkings which are not unusual. We heard for years a lot of negative things about mining and the negative impact of it. So today it's different, it will be different, but we can't change this thinking of society overnight. I think here it's very important communication with the society. This should be transparent, this should be open, this should be fair, and that's actually a start. So yeah, shortly.
Thank you.
I agree with previously speakers, so the trust is really the key, also the knowledge. And I will share just a story that we have in one of the Aeronit. So in Aeronit, we already prepared strategic research and innovation agenda for the partnership. And we covered the technical issues that should be done, but also we call it transversional goals, and among those are also working with governments and working also with public acceptance. So social acceptance is very important to the field of mining, of course, and we try to go as slow as we can in the lower tier project to include the idea and awareness of to explain the people why this project is responsible and really have influence not only on bad side but also to in good side for the life. So in mRNA we have really nice exercise when we prepare the core topics. We always invite also the social scientists who go through the core text and prepare the tender in the way that the evaluator see these soft skills also as something that they will measure. So it's really in the science dimension. So in that case, taking care of I don't know, gender or social acceptance or regulations or, for example, open access and stuff like that are important part of the proposal. So in that way, we would like to go also in this partnership, new partnership, so taking care for those soft elements in all proposals that we found with public budget.
Thank you. I think this is social part is not for the Elanate project, but it is not for your project, how to say, but for everywhere where we want to put the new infrastructure or new energy or something like this, or resource related project or something like this. What is important to present the local community? Go to the local community on different levels also, not just to the mayor, but also in the public space, in neighborhoods, because there is opposite mostly the normal inhabitants, not so much the mayors sometimes. On the other side, I think the investors, most investors, which coming in the new local area, they have to present their vision and also some experiences, maybe from abroad, what that means for this locality. And on the other side, I think they have to make also a little bit the education about the project, what they will do. And also, maybe one of these is also tailor-made solutions with them. What they will be on the added value if they will be a new infrastructure, for example, parks, maybe some centers for the for the children. Yes, kindergarten. I want to say, yeah. And on the other side, sometimes I saw abroad also if they demonstrate at the 3 demo that the whole projects, so you can be a part of this progress in the project. And I think then you have to be not as a push, and at the moment, but maybe you need more time to invite them, maybe also for their opinion, what this means. Because you are a stranger in the new locality. And I think that is also very important that you present, that is for this age of yours, that is the sociability, that's the green way, how you can be a part of this new green community or something like this. Because I think they're afraid, mostly, because normally investors, they want to be here. As you see, everywhere we have at the moment, I think also Nibi and banana, even we have a lot of shops. Everywhere, also in the rural area, everywhere. The question is if they like it. Who asked them? No one, sometimes.
Thank you. I think it's time that we conclude because the conference goes on. So I would like to thank very much to you, to the audience, and of course special thanks again to all the panelists for this very interesting discussion. Thank you very much.